calling the meeting to order, West Windsor Council. So now, January 11th. Dale, can you call roll?
Salas. Here. Seaver. Here. Hurst.
Here.
Mandel.
Here. Michael Stevens is out tonight. He had a work meeting that he had to go to. Are we adequately notified?
Yes, we were adequately noticed to the printed packet and the present time on January 8th, 2021.
Thank you. We want to stand and salute the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, since there are no other matters, we open the public comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Church. Have you first?
Yes, Mike's off.
Just be on. I don't think there's any on off. Should just be on.
Speak right into the microphone.
Hello? Hello? Okay, good evening, everyone. John Church, 11 Princeton Place. Nice to be here. Nice to see everybody. Hope everybody is well. I just have a couple of comments. First, on the COVID, I was glad to see that Governor Cuomo is saying now that they need to open things more in New York State because the economic cost is getting too high. And I would hope that maybe in New Jersey we could follow suit with that and start opening things. And just from an editorial personal viewpoint, I know we're all under stress with having to stay home and not see people and everything. There is some benefit in actually seeing, interacting with people, provided we don't catch COVID. Because we do depend on, our immune systems depend on contact with people and daily, every day giving your immune system a bit of a test. So whether it's a cold or something else, if we don't do that, our immune system gets lazy. And we just will not be able to fight off future things. If you do, after this, you do get a cold, it might be much worse than it would have been otherwise. So there's always a downside to social isolation. There's a good side that we stop the COVID to a certain extent, but there's many downsides. And I think it would be best if we statewide, we should open up a little bit more so that we could avoid some of these downsides. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is the zoning board is active. We had a Zoom meeting not long ago. We elected the current officers, current chair and vice chair. We did not have an application, so nothing to discuss or report on that way. But the Zoom meeting went fine. Some of us didn't work that way. Okay, but it did. And I don't know what the planning board was planning to do, but at least with us, the Zoom feature seemed to work all right. We did not have an application. So applications get more complicated because there are witnesses that have to be sworn and all kinds of things that go along with an in-person application. But we won't have anything else till at least March. But at least I just wanted to pass on the report that we did meet and we did reorganize as we do every year. And the Zoom feature seemed to work fine. So that's all I have to say for now. It's nice to be back and see you in person. I hope everybody is well and stays well.
Thank you, John. It's very good seeing you again. Jay, do we have any other public comment?
Did you want to speak? Please unmute yourself. I see your turn in 1 minute.
Thank you.
We can hear.
You may have to put a mic up to the speaker.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Terza Warman. I live at 5 Stoneleigh Drive. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor and members of the council. I'm sorry? I live at 5 Stoneleigh Drive. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
There's a feedback. Mayor and members of the council. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Okay, thank you. This has been a very difficult week for our nation, and I'm calling on our mayor and members of the council to issue a statement along the lines of,
They are.
Dear, tears, I would hold, we can't hear.
Teresa, hold on, please. We're having some feedback.
okay, sure.
Feedback.
I mean, Gay, if it's easier, I can come to the senior center. If there's a problem with the audio, I'll be very brief.
I think we have it now. Okay, try now, Teresa.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do a do-over.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Gay. Mayor Marate and members of the council, my name is Terza Warman. I live at 5 Stoneleigh Drive in West Windsor. I come to you after a very difficult week for our nation. And I come to you because I am aware that other town committees have taken the step of issuing a statement after the horrible events we saw in the nation's capital last Wednesday. They have issued statements calling for the removal of President Trump. Now, you might think, as one of thousands of township committees across the country, that this would have little effect, but I would beg to differ because I'm asking you to do this on behalf of our community.
Teresa, can you still hear me?
Yes,
Right, try it now again.
do it again.
Yeah, you're good. Start from where you were just made a statement.
Should I take it from the top?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. My name is Terza Warman. I live at 5 Stoneleigh Drive. I'm calling on our mayor and members of the Township Council to issue a statement calling for the removal of President Trump after the incidents which occurred last Wednesday, January 6th. We are all familiar with what happened. I believe the president was inciting insurrection. Sadly, as a result of the horrors that many of us witnessed in real time, our own Congresswoman has been diagnosed with COVID tonight. There were at least 5 fatalities. Our former governor, Chris Christie, has today called for Mr. Trump's impeachment. I am imploring the council to make a statement. You may be of the view that you're just a council, one of many thousands, and what impact would you have? And what I'm suggesting is that it matters to this community. I think the community would like to see a statement from the council directly calling for President Trump's removal. I want to thank you for your time, and I send this to you with the utmost respect for the positions you hold, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. Gabe, is there anybody else looking to make a public comment?
Ms. Connolly, do you want to speak?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa.
Hold on, please. I have one. Okay, go ahead, please. 19085. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sorry, are you speaking to me? 908 number?
Yep. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Tim Bryant, and I live at 1 Villa Drive in Princeton Junction. Similar to what you just heard from a fellow resident of the town, I'll just modify her comments slightly or amplify them. The mayor and the town council's silence in the face of the assault on what I would deem the very altar of our democracy last week, something that impacts every person in our community and across the country, is not an understandable result of a nonpartisan governance structure. If anything, it suggests its absence. If our elected leaders are unwilling to stand up and speak out unequivocally against attacks on our most fundamental constitutional process, what do they stand for, and when will they do it? The sanctity of our election is as local as it gets, and our community doesn't reside on an isolated island. We are all part of something bigger, something greater. It's time to step up and reflect that reality. I actually don't think that most folks would expect you to be articulating appropriate courses of action from this point forward, but being unwilling to call out those by name who organized, incited, and perpetrated these vile acts would be a failure of your civic duty as our elected representatives. Leaders lead from the front, they let their voices be heard, and they never shirk from the responsibility to tell hard truths. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Does anyone else want to speak? Please raise your hand or unmute yourself and I'll call on you. I see two additional. Guess not, they're not raising their hand.
Nobody else wants to speak?
No.
Okay, then I'll close public comment. Okay, administration comment, right?
First announcement is that municipal offices will be closed Monday, January 18th, in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. There are no scheduled changes for the garbage collection the week of January 18th. So garbage collection will be, the garbage collection will occur as scheduled. And the yard debris and leaf collection work continues by Public Works crews. They are continuing to collect in Zone 3, and it is expected that they will begin Zone 4 later on this week, beginning Thursday, January 14th. The website has been updated with this information. That's all I have.
Marlena, and what do people know if they're in the zone that have already been collected? You want to give the direction?
The direction is that once your material has been removed, so that means people in zones 1 and 2 other than Christmas trees, should not have anything at the curb because you run the risk of receiving a notice of violation from the township because it's really unsafe to have material out when it's not going to be collected until March. The crews need to be able to navigate the roadways during a snowstorm. It's for the community and public safety. It's for people who are walking or biking and their safety. So I would ask, again, and remind individuals, please refrain from putting material out at the curb. Material can be brought to the public works facility during the week and on Saturdays.
Thank you. Right?
Thanks, Andy. I have three separate comments. One related to comments that a couple of people made in the public comment period, and two related to township business. Last week, what I saw on TV disturbed me enough to break my own rule, hopefully for the first and the last time in my public career. While I served as a school board president for 9 years from 2004 to 2013, I would get a request almost every month to make a statement or comment on issues that affected the school district, but over which the school board had no control. Even though I agreed with many of those issues and was passionate about them, it was always my policy to focus on job at hand and not use my position to comment on issues over which school board had no control. I continued that philosophy when I got elected mayor in 2017. In the precious meeting time available, with our town facing numerous problems that the mayor and council can directly solve, it is unproductive to use the time to discuss issues over which my office has zero control. I've always put substance above showmanship. It has always been my philosophy not to use my position as mayor to comment on what other elected officials should or should not do. But last week, as I sat in doctor's office waiting room, while my mom was undergoing examination, I saw something that I thought I would never see. The Capitol Hill was under siege by supporters of President Trump. The mob tried to intentionally disrupt constitutional transfer of power. Their actions were an unprecedented attack on American democracy. My prayers are for the law enforcement officer that unfortunately lost his life in this incident. Those responsible for these actions will be held fully accountable. Authoritarianism and mob justice have no place in our society. I wish our newly elected President Joe Biden the best and hope the country can heal. I personally will do everything within my power to bring people together in Westminster. I hope each of us, as residents of this great town, will reflect on our actions, whether they bring people together or drive them apart. May God bless Westminster and the United States of America. Now, I have a couple of comments about issues that the township is dealing with right now. As many of you know, those who are affected, those who give the septic system, got a letter whether they are interested in putting the sewer in. The first meeting was held last Thursday. The second meeting will be held tomorrow, Tuesday, between 1 and 4 p.m. It's on Zoom. You can join it. The link is on the township website. Numerous questions. The first meeting lasted almost 2 hours. The video of that meeting is also on the township website, so if you cannot attend tomorrow's meeting, you can listen to the video, watch the video. There's also the material that was presented at the meeting is also PowerPoint presentation is on the township website. And many people who attended the meeting found the material very useful. So again, I'll try to reiterate that the township has no position one way or the other for sewer or against sewer. It is entirely up to the homeowners who are affected, whether they are interested in getting the sewer or not sewer. And it's really a two-step process. The first step is to indicate whether you are interested in getting the sewer system. If we get sufficient positive response, then we will go ahead and undertake a study to find out exactly what the cost would be. Right now, we have just given an estimate, 30,000 to 50,000, depending on complexity of the project and based on township engineers' judgment. 50,000 is a high figure. I will grant that. We don't expect it to go that high, but we didn't want to under promise and then the figure come above that. Similarly, it's unlikely the figure will be less than 30,000. Another question, that important question that came up is that the homeowner is fully responsible for paying whatever is the fair cost of completing the project after the assessment is done. The assessment will be done with all taxpayers in town paying to come up with the plan for installing the sewer system. Once the exact assessment is done, known, and if there is sufficient interest in sewer, another survey will be sent out to all homeowners who are affected to ask them if they are again willing to pay whatever the cost that is estimated based on the engineering study. If the response to that study is sufficient number, yes, then the township will go ahead and do the project. If we do the project, then everybody in that affected area is liable to pay for sewer, whether you connect to the sewer system, whether you voted for it or against it. So a few people have asked, what's the danger in just saying yes now? First thing is, even though you are paying for that study directly or indirectly, the taxpayer dollars are paying for that study. So you may not pay 100%, but maybe you pay 0.001% of your taxes go towards that study. And second, equally important thing is if we do the study, then we don't do something else in the township, because the money is limited and the time of our township engineer and assistant engineer are limited. So if we do the study, then so think about it very carefully, whether you are interested in doing whichever side of the issue you stand, please do vote, because the most frustrating part would be a very small percentage of people return the survey, because then there is no sufficient information either for the mayor or the council members to make a judgment whether to proceed with the study or not study. And it's really a difficult question, because I am certain that there are going to be some people who don't want the sewer. And if the township decides to proceed with the project, then those people will be liable to pay for the sewer, even though they don't want it. And that's a very difficult question as an elected official, at least for me. So please consider your choices, and please do vote no matter which side of the issue you stand. This vote is as important as your vote in November. The second important issue the township is dealing with is the vaccine administration. Currently, the state is allocating a set vaccine supply, roughly 400 per week, for the entire county of Mercer. So different towns have got together and do clinic in different towns. We had our first clinic in this very room last week. This week the clinic is in Princeton, I believe. The following week is in Lawrenceville. So the clinic will keep moving. In that clinic, Westminster gets a fixed number of slots depending on our population. So that's a very limited supply. 400 per county is nothing, considering the county population. We have requested the state government to give us our own supply directly that we can use to vaccinate whoever is eligible to be vaccinated. Currently, only 1A, those people who are in healthcare field, and some part of 1B, which is the police and fire department people, are eligible to be vaccinated. The 1B group is very large, it includes all the essential workers and all people 75 years and above. We expect that the governor will not release all of 1B, he will release it in batches, just like he released the police and firemen last week. Whenever the next group is released, we will release a part of that group. The township has come up with a registration system or a form that will post on our website. So if you are eligible to register, please register on the township website. We will use that to schedule appointments based on number of vaccines we get. Again, at this point, we don't have any idea how many vaccines we get. And the earliest we will get is sometime next week, so after the 18th of January. And we don't know whether we can vaccinate anybody from 1B at this point. So when the governor makes that decision and releases it, please do register. It's equally important not to register if you are not eligible to be vaccinated. We are not keeping a queue because that's unproductive work. We have no idea when the next batch will be released. So please register if and only if you are eligible to be vaccinated. And then somebody from the health office will call you and schedule an appointment based on number of vaccine doses we get. Again, you will not get a chance or choice to choose the appointment time because we have limited vaccine supply and limited slots available. But they will call and contact you and tell you what time you can come to the senior center and get vaccine or get vaccinated. So I have reached out to the governor's office. The Department of Health, the State Department of Health knows our desire to get a supply for ourselves. They have acknowledged that. They don't know how much supply they are going to get from the federal government, so they have not made any commitment. So hopefully later this week or early next week, we will know what supply we are getting and whom we can vaccinate. And please keep looking at the township website. Please sign up for the township emails. Those are the two best ways to find out about the vaccination schedule. I also personally post on Facebook. The township has a Facebook page, but we will definitely post on the township website and the township email to let you know. So again, I really appreciate a lot of people have reached out to me, and I really appreciate everybody's patience and understanding that they have shown. We are trying to move as fast as we possibly can to get everybody in Westminster vaccinated. So thank you. And I want to thank Council for all the support throughout, not only the vaccination process, but throughout the pandemic since March. So thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do want to point out that if you haven't signed up for the township emails, there's a button to sign up for e-bulletin. It's, I think, on the bottom right-hand spot on the home page of the web page. It says e-bulletin down there, I believe. Click on that, put your email address in there, and then you'll get even wonderful things like the town council agenda, but hopefully we'll also get some very important information also. Thank you. We'll go to council member comments. Linda, would you like to refer?
As I watched the horrific events on TV last Tuesday, I could barely believe what was happening, like many of you. First, President Trump delivered a political rant on a DC rally, primarily focusing on how he believes the election was stolen from him. At the end, he encouraged thousands of people in attendance to march to the Capitol to show force. Peaceful marches are part of our democratic society, but what transpired was the result of a planned hostile attack on members of Congress who were performing their duty to certify the results of the presidential election. It was terribly divisive and irresponsible of President Trump to say or do anything that would encourage such lawlessness. He should have set the tone for a peaceful transition of power instead of setting the stage for utter chaos. To those in Congress, I encourage you to consider all measures available to you to address the president's behavior, including impeachment. I strongly condemn the illegal and violent actions of the rioters
who are carrying out an insurgence on our legislative branch of government. They must be arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Let us never forget, this violent attack resulted in 5 deaths, including a Capitol Police officer originally from New Jersey. I congratulate President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris on their election. I have faith that as Joe Biden becomes our next president, he will lead our country in healing and unity by working across party lines to accomplish shared goals. Okay, on another topic, I'd also like to encourage everyone regarding the septic to sewer inquiry meetings that are going on. I did attend the meeting last week that was on, online and listened in. As the mayor said, the goal is to get 100% of the responses back regarding this, and that is so critical. So please don't throw them out or just discard them. It's important that you let us know what your thoughts are. And if you have any questions, please you can email them to sewersurvey@westwindsorgwp.com. And the next Zoom meeting on this topic is tomorrow, January 12th, from 1 to 4 p.m. I also encourage everyone to pre-register for a COVID vaccine. I certainly did so, probably in a lower group like 1C, and maybe it'll take months before I get called in to do that, but I certainly encourage everyone to consider getting vaccinated. As a Board of Health member, I witnessed the rollout of our health department's vaccination program for the 1A group that got their shots. So again, my thanks to Jill Swanson and the health department for a very, very well organized event.
Thank you, Linda. Good, Andrew?
Sure, I'm gonna sandwich some good, the bad in the middle and the good at the end. But I do want to say on the vaccinations first that, as Linda raised it, there were some reports in the national news that my brother in New York also did this. There's no announcing vaccines when people aren't showing up for their scheduled times. So if you sign up, please go. If you think that there's places throwing out vaccines, what my brother did is showed up 30 minutes where they closed, and rather than throwing out those vaccines, he got vaccinated. So ShopRite is a major distributor here in New Jersey. A good thing for the week, doing some work with Reverend Eric Cussman. His church is St. Bartholomew Lutheran Church in Trenton. We were talking about it, and he was talking about the volunteering that has gone on there within the West Windsor community to feed the community in Trenton. Specifically, he said the Girl Scout troop of, I think it was, he said 0 to 334, I think the 10, 11-year-olds had volunteered to assemble food bags and hand it out to those in need of food, which I thought was beautiful. He then layered on how many other groups have been helpful to the church from West Windsor. He found out there's a West Windsor Moms group which Brady Hebert, and I'm sure I just butchered his last name, but Randy Hebert.
Randy Hubbard.
Thank you. Is organized, but the Moms of West Windsor have done a lot to keep those in need of Trenton fed, and so he's expressing his gratefulness of that. And so he also mentioned the West Windsor Prom Committee had come down to serve as well. So a lot of good things happening in our town, and it's certainly worth mentioning. As to the events of this week, I mean, some of you may know, I do a lot of volunteering in national security circles. Democrats, Republicans, non-affiliated, all the same, and these are good people who are working to support our country. And I take a vantage point as someone who cares deeply about our security, our country, our democracy. What I saw made me really sad and disgusted. My personal view is the president and his cronies sparked an insurrection. There are folks supporting him who attempted to subvert our democracy. It got worse as folks stormed the Capitol building and broke in violently. And as been mentioned several times, including tears on the call, 5 people died in the process. Vice President Pence and Governor Hogan of Maryland. Vice President Pence from inside the Capitol had a call and a request the National Guard to come in. Governor Hogan from the state of Maryland had given an order, or made a call, excuse me, to issue the National Guard, offering the National Guard of Maryland to support calling reinforcements to defend our capital. Those calls went on deaf ears. Deaf ears. The National Guard of Maryland was offered, and they were turned down. It was the call from Vice President Pence from inside the Capitol to the Secretary of the Army that ultimately called Governor Hogan, this is Governor Hogan's words publicly, that enabled Governor Hogan to send in those reinforcements. So not only was there a call for the violence and mayhem, there was a call for the insurrection. There was movements to stop the reinforcements from coming in. 120 plus congressmen participated, in my opinion, in inciting that subversion. It kept the myth going that this was not a free and fair election. Free and fair elections are a pillar of our democracy. I believe in those systems are important to the public good and the sustainment of our democracy. In the 1860s, a Confederate flag came within 15 miles of our Capitol building during the Civil War. Never got within that distance. Last week, there was Confederate flags being flown inside of our Capitol building. To many, those are symbols of racism, slavery, and hate. So my personal belief, and I feel strongly about it, is that the sooner we can get rid of the president, get him out of office, I see him as a dangerous threat, the better off we are as a nation. Yeah, I would like to see our leaders, Vice President Pence, invoke the 25th Amendment. Short of that, I think it's the Congress's duty to impeach him. At least he needs to be boxed in. I mean, we're under threat from the inside. This is not a political issue for me. It's a national security issue. It's a threat to our democracy like none we've ever seen. So let me bring it home. In today's days, and I look at President-elect Biden's call for unity, I look at West Windsor, yeah, I've seen a lot of that. I've also seen call for partisanship. I've seen people talking about how their values that are reflected by a letter that represents them and their political party represents the only point of view that should be accepted. And I see that as extremely divisive. I see it as divisive in trying to tear our community apart into camps. But we need to be one America, one team, e pluribus unum, out of many one. So I support President-elect Biden's call for unity. And I think we need that in West Windsor. We need to get back to focusing on each other, focusing on supporting each other and the public good. We all hated the city. We all were despising what we saw last week. And many of us have taken action in the community, and some of us are trying to take action nationally. But let's not let that tear us apart in this town. We need to stay together, and we need to support each other every day. I'm going to end on a public note of good. I made as I promised I would. Next Monday is Martin Luther King Day. Our West Windsor People of Color Advocacy Group, which are student leaders, are working with the Human Relations Council, the African American Parent Support Group, and the Arts Council on the Martin Luther King Day of Service. If there was ever someone who called for unity, Martin Luther King. So I call on us to support that effort, volunteer in that day of service as families. We're able to do it remotely, safely, and deliver bags of food, clothing, books to people in need. So please join that effort and contribute. And I'll pause there and hope that the sandwich of good things and the horrible thing in between was enough for today.
Thank you, Andrew. It was very informative and very passionate. Okay, so
Last week, on January 6th, Westminster Health Department held its first COVID vaccine clinic. I had the opportunity to visit the clinic along with my colleagues in the council and as Board of Health. For the past year, we have been actively involved to ensure we meet all the challenges of COVID-19. It was a happy coincidence that last week our Hometown Heroes was awarded to our health department. I was very impressed by the setup and the energetic staff working very hard so we can put this pandemic behind us. I drove back home all excited from the success of the vaccination clinic, only to find my children glued to the television watching horrific scenes at the Capitol. My first memory of Capitol Hill is from January of 2002, when I visited the White House and the Capitol Hill along with my parents as a 9/11 widow. That visit gave me and new immigrant and my family the assurance that this country is built upon strong principles and patriotism and that I will be okay here. My parents felt safe to leave me behind here. I was a young girl then. 19 years later, as I witnessed that belief of mine being shattered in front of my young children, and as I sat down to help them make sense of what was happening, the thought that came to my mind is we are better than this. For over 2 centuries, our republic has existed because the people of this country elect their leaders. For the first time since the War of 1812, we watched mobs invade the Capitol. The supporters of President Trump trying to disrupt our representatives from performing their duty. But they failed, and our democracy held firm as the Senate and House representatives certified the election of President-elect Joe Biden. I extend my deepest condolences to Officer Sicknick's family, who lost his life in this incident. Theodore Roosevelt once said, and I quote, "Patriotism means to stand by the country. It does not mean to stand by the president." Anyone who incites or supports violence and insurrection cannot be our leader. I'm hurt, but I truly believe we will come together stronger. We need to look past ourselves, our disagreements, and put our democracy first. I wish President-elect Joe Biden, best as we come together and heal as Americans. Now on some good notes. This week, we honor our own fire and emergency services personnel from Station 45 as our hometown hero. This department, alongside our health department, has been very instrumental to meet every challenge that this pandemic has brought upon us. So we congratulate them in receiving this award and thank them for their services. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. That was extremely well felt. Really appreciate it. I'm going to combine a few things here. This week, we're honoring Station 45, West Windsor Fire and Emergency Services, as hometown heroes. They are paid professional EMTs and firefighters. We appreciate all the work they've been doing. I encourage everybody to go check our website and look through our hometown heroes. I think we can all use a little inspiration at this time. Last week, we honored our own West Windsor Health Department, led by Jill Swanson, for the incredible job they've done this year. By pure luck, or perhaps fate, this was also the week that our health department was going to have our first COVID vaccine clinic. I immediately sent to find out if it was a good time that the council, which is also the Board of Health, to come observe the Wednesday, January 6th first clinic and present the staff with our Hometown Heroes proclamation on this historic day. We were thrilled to see a well-organized, successful operation and present the proclamation to this well-deserving group. We were on an incredible high and joking with our first responders as they got their shots. It was a magical moment when we could see the beginning of the end of all of this pain. The high came crashing down. All of a sudden, there were news reports of protesters breaking into the Capitol, then more of them inside, of intruders yelling death threats at Vice President Pence and sitting in Nancy Pelosi's office, and later the death of a brave policeman, Brian Sixth, who was from New Jersey. I love studying history, especially American history. The miracle of the United States is not that we started with an election, but that we held them on a regular basis in war and peace, and yes, epidemics, and we peacefully transferred power as a result. It is not that we wrote a constitution, but that we followed it and let judges overrule us if we did not. It is not that we made a promise, it's that we kept it. Our elected officials have always supported this. On the afternoon of January 6th, I wrote and posted the following about the mobs at the Capitol supporting President Trump and what they were doing at his own urging. For over 200 years, our republic has existed because we select leaders based on the votes of our people and not who can assemble the strongest mob. And if the people choose new leaders, there is an orderly transfer of power. Today, for the first time in our history, we watched as mobs invaded the Capitol and tried to disrupt and scare elected representatives from performing that peaceful transfer of power. Don't call yourself patriots if you do that. You've done what no enemy of the United States has ever been able to do. We must arrest and punish those involved and not let this happen again. We must find out who planned it, who supported it, and prevent it from happening again in the national capital, in our states, in our cities or towns. We must do this all within the law and remember why we're doing it. I want to see peace in our land, cooperation, and people working together for a common good. I look forward to our new president supporting this every day. I hope, as always, I come back to West Windsor and how we can show the way. Before we say or react, let's ask ourselves, will this bring people together or will it pull us apart? Thank you.
Thank you,
Good.
Andrea.
At this point, I don't know, Gay, do you have anything to say?
I think you have all said it quite eloquently.
Okay, then I guess we can move on to the public hearings. Sorry, a little emotional. Can we get to the consent agenda, please?
Sure. We have the November 9th, 2020 business session minutes and bills and claims.
Any read resolutions or just go?
There's no resolutions on this one. On the consent agenda. Oh, sorry, we have to approve these.
Yeah, all right. We'll go with that. Does anybody want to pull anything? No? Okay, do I have a motion to adopt? So moved.
Second. Gauss? Yes. Beaver? Yes. Hurd?
Yes.
Mandel?
Yes. Recommendations from administration and council?
We have 2021 R026, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute an interlocal services agreement with East Windsor Township for animal control services for 21 and 22 plus hourly costs. 2020-R027, authorizing the second year of a 5-year agreement with Visual Computer Solutions for extra duty scheduling services. 2021 R029, authorizing the business administrator to purchase from Motorola Solutions Phase 2 equipment for the radio communication system upgrade, $332,265.15. 2021-R030, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a professional service agreement with Van Cleef Engineering Associates to provide engineering and land surveying design services for the project known as Annual Road Improvement Program 2020 for $35,472.
1R031, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a professional services agreement with Act Engineers Incorporated for miscellaneous engineering services for $2,000. 2021-R032, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a professional services agreement with Van Cleef Engineering Associates for miscellaneous engineering services for $3,000. 2021-R033, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a professional services agreement with Aurora and Associates PC for miscellaneous engineering services for $3,000.
Thank you. Does anybody want to pull anything? If not, I'm going to get a motion to adopt.
Second,
Gilmore?
yes.
Rivers?
Yes.
Hirsch?
Yes.
Mandel?
Yes. And we go to the introduction of ordinances, please.
2021-01, an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 168, Traffic and Parking, Article 5, Traffic and Parking Regulations on Private Property, Section 168-37, Control of Movement and Parking on Public and Private Property. This is for the enclave.
Can I get a motion to introduce?
Motion to introduce?
Second?
Second,
Dave?
Douglas?
yes.
Rivers?
Yes.
Hirsch?
Yes.
Mandel?
Yes.
Public hearing will be January 25th, 2021.
Okay. Is there any additional public comment?
Does anyone else wish to speak at public comments? Please raise your hand. Seeing none?
And I'll close the public comment. And let's go for council reports and new business. Let's start with Sonia.
Human Relations Council met on January 5th. They do have an event, as my colleague Andrew Hirsch mentioned, on this upcoming Monday, January 18th, on Martin Luther King Day, a day of service. African American Parent Support Group, Westminster Arts Council, Human Relations Council, Westminster Plainsboro School Student Advocacy Group together are hosting it, a very socially distant day of service. I remember last year when I attended that service along with my children, it was a lot of fun where the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts and various members of the community came together and put the kids together. But this year, obviously, for obvious reasons, for COVID, because of COVID-19, we can't do that. But they have a good plan of a socially distant day of service where members of the community can put together kits for healthy bedtime kits, for rice, personal care kits for tasks, weekend kits for shoe, and PPE kits for the senior center in Trenton. I think it's Jenny Stubblefield Senior Center. And they also have student led panel discussion on how our district is working to promote service, leadership, and unity, which would be moderated by Dr. Michael Smith. You can find all this information on the Arts Council's website. Sign up for donating, sign up for the panel discussion, virtual discussion. SHOOP, SHOOP is also doing a collection of food items. They're right here in the senior center. Members of the community can pick up reusable bags that the Environmental Commission has provided. And there's a list of food that can be placed in those bags and delivered on January 18th. I believe the Boy Scouts Troop 40 would be present here for collection that day.
Thank you, Sonia. Andrew?
Thank you, and so I was glad to hear Dr. Smith moderating. He's a resident of West Windsor with his family, with a young son, great family, and works with Maureen at the College of New Jersey. So I, through our own reorganization meeting, I sat in my first meetings with the school board and the recreation committee. We start with the school board. They had their own reorganization meeting to start the year. Dana Krug was reappointed for a fourth term, and Mark Whitfield was appointed for a second term. Both from West Windsor, from Plainsboro. Loy Maliga was, I believe, appointed for her first term to the school board. The president of the Board of Education, Michelle Case, was reelected. And for vice president, reelected was Rachel Giuliana. Joe Giuliana runs the Wildcats, interestingly. The schools are, I believe, planning to reopen on January 18th. There's a lot of conversation
I
around.
think January 19th,
19th.
right?
Thank you, you're probably right. Thank you. 19th?
18th is Martin Luther King Day.
19th.
Yep.
Thank you. The superintendent spoke about the need for flexibility given the following trends with COVID-19, which some may find understandable. So it's a little bit, although they plan to open at that date, they didn't make any statement to kind of otherwise. They did make the disclaimer that they're watching the trends, always determine when folks may go back to school and how they may react to that. Over the summer, there was conversations about whether in the same light of they don't know when schools are going to be open to sports. To many's interest, they did talk about winter sports being played. They noted basketball and swimming as an example. In basketball, they found an interesting way to allow the kids to play by just having North play South. In swimming, they're having races where all the high schools are swimming in their own pools, and they're reporting times to each other. So the teams are together, but the meets are virtual. So I found that creative and well thought out. There was, for the students who participated, there was a couple students, Henry Shaw was noted, who was, a student who was, I think, reported in the New York Times recently, and one of the seniors mentioned, and there was multiple requests for this, where the kids just want to be back in school. One of the things that I found really nice is, when in our history of high school kids been when have they made strong statements to get back to school, right? I thought that was actually pretty wonderful, and I hope they have that opportunity, particularly the seniors who are looking to go to the prom, graduate, and have their last experience. On the recreation committee, David Lichtenstein was reappointed as chair for 2021, Susan Levine, vice chair. They had a resignation on the board, so they have an open board seat. They noted, and I'm sure they'll be asking for folks to follow up with that. Interestingly, they were asking about the access to the schools over the summer, and there's conversation with Ken Jacobs about how they run camps. So when can they access the facilities? So I think it's still fluid based on access to facilities. There's a big conversation underway there. And certainly the pain point for them is waterworks. There's conversations about how do we collectively attract more participation in waterworks over the summer. I know this year was an exception, but it sounds like there needs to be a coordinated effort to try to get that done. But it was good. Each group was very welcoming. The school board, I just got to watch, but had some side notes for folks, and the rec commission was very engaging.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Affordable Housing Committee met by Zoom for its reorganization meeting last Thursday. and Town Calabria is again chairman, as Jean Jacobson is vice chairman, vice chairwoman. The committee reviewed resolution from Long Hill Township regarding the need to have COLA or some other body administer the Affordable Housing Act. The mayor of Long Hill had sent a resolution that they passed to the council. I thought this was worthy of a look from the Affordable Housing Committee. So after discussion, it was decided that Allison Miller and I would draft a resolution and bring it back to the committee for consideration. The committee will also review an affordable housing list for items for the administration and the planning board to review regarding affordable housing units when new applications come in. Planning board meets this Wednesday, January 13th at 7 p.m. The board will reorganize and then hear the 400 Steps application. This is the site behind the Ellsworth Shopping Center, which is located at 15 Cranberry Road. So it's the back property, which is separately owned by the 400 Steps. What is proposed is 144 apartment units, including 29 affordable units. And also the Martin Luther King Day of service is a wonderful event, and I've seen so many people there over the years contributing, the young children doing all sorts of things, people dropping off food. And again, we've been doing that for a number of years. But when I first went to these events, we were sitting around tables like this, just discussing issues. But now it's become so much more of a community day to help others. So I encourage everyone to participate in any way that you can. Thank you.
Thank you. The Environmental Commission meets Thursday, the Parking Authority meets Wednesday, so I guess I get meetings every day this week, but not this one yet. We did, as far as Sonia had mentioned, for the shoot, where shoot was going to be having people packed into bags. And today I went over to the senior center outside here with the chair of the Environmental Commission, Dr. Boots, and also with Melissa Hager, prepared a bunch of reusable bags. So what we're hoping is when you come for shoot and you're putting your items into bags, that you come over to the senior center, they'll be outside here, pick up the bags, pick up the literature from inside of a waterproof tub that's sitting right outside the front door, and bring that home with you, put your items in there, take as many bags as you're willing to fill up with your donations, and then bring them back on the specified dates, and try to do everything very socially distant and safely. And I think with all of this, it won't be as much fun as the monsters I've gotten to be in at the art center in the last few years, with everybody packing things and drawing and doing all kinds of stuff. But at least we'll be able to do some good and do some learning and appreciate Martin Luther King Day. So I'm encouraging everybody. There's a lot of different activities, and this is one of them. And administration updates, anything additional?
Nothing.
Okay, well, it's on here. I always give an option. Okay, all right, can I get a motion for the going to closed session?
Motion.
Okay. Voice vote or roll call on that one?
Huh? I have to read it.
All right, thank you.
So you can go ahead, but we'll do Galvez,
Yes.
Hirsch,
Yes.
sorry, Devers,
Yes.
and Mandel.
Yes.
Okay. Whereas NJSA 10.4.12 allows for a public body to go into closed session during a public meeting. And whereas the Township Council, the Township of West Windsor, has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempted from the public. And whereas the regular meeting of this Township Council will reconvene. And whereas the below stated subject matter shall be made available at such time as the issues discussed therein are resolved and its disclosure would not subvert any particular exception for convening a closed session Now therefore be it resolved that the Township Council of the Township of West Windsor will go into closed session for the following reason as outlined in NJSA 10-412 for the discussion of possible litigation.
Thank you.
So now I have this, and,
Let us know when we're in closed session.
yep, give me a few minutes.